Yo, Calvin, welcome back.
Oh,
Do you want to say where you were?
yeah. I was so I took a little vacation. I was in LA for a friend's birthday and also
Ally. I was an
yeah,
ally. Just so you know, I was an ally.
yeah, all the cool people there, of
Yep.
course. Real quick, LAX, let's just talk about product design here. LAX has these you have your sink in the bathroom with the water, the soap, and they have a hand dryer right there on
Okay.
the sink. Everyone has their individual hand dryers, and I thought that was amazing because I normally don't use hand dryers in the airport. I just grab the paper towel and go. But since it was right there, I was like, okay, well, I can use it. So brilliant product design. Just have the.
Is it brilliant
I,
product design or
I think
is it an
so.
efficiency fucking play? Because let's be honest here.
Oh. Mhm.
Do we need to have every single one of them have their own individual one? Like, do we need
Well,
that?
it depends. If you want to appease the environmental crowd and never use paper towels, then it'll at least appease them.
But you can't appease the environmental crowd because you're using monumental amounts of electricity to go and use
Yeah.
every one of these
I
things.
agree, but it's the perception of doing the right thing,
Oh, Jesus
and
Christ.
the electricity is a little bit more invisible, even if it takes up more.
Dude, I'll poke you in the eye to lop your hand off. No worries. It's all good. Also, congrats on both of us making the right fucking mistake of both wearing a green shirt
Yeah, I
on a
know. I mean,
green
it's a rare
screen.
occasion, very rare occasion. But yeah, I was there for both a birthday party and also a Evo watch party. And what Evo is, Evolution, that is the largest fighting game tourney in the world, but also is more than just that. Yeah, it's exactly like that.
I saw
Yep.
a blind guy fucking beat up another dude.
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
hilarious.
that's worth talking about in
Yeah,
a second. Yeah, let me write that down
there's
so we don't forget.
there's a sound design talk right there. Someone
Yeah,
needs to do it.
absolutely. It was really interesting. But Evolution is not just the biggest fighting game tournament, but it's also the biggest open bracket tournament in the world.
Yeah,
And 7,000 people enter Street Fighter. It's not like other leagues, and that's what makes us beautiful. You don't need to be a professional. You don't need to be on an esports team. You show up, you pay the money, and you're in, and there's a good chance you're gonna fight like a famous player, like within one or two matches, because not only do is anybody allowed, but all the big players go too.
yeah, I love
So it's
that.
brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that is lost, and it is something that
Mm,
only the fighting game community really deals with anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You can't do that in
Yeah.
Counter Strike. You know, it's not like that in those leagues. League of Legends got rid of that for forever ago to have franchisees, and that almost had like it had a positive impact on their side of things for a long time because a franchise could get in, stay in for a long time, and continue to rotate in and out players. But you don't have that. So they have that moment of flexibility to say, well, we're in the league, so we can spend some money here. Whereas now it's like, well, no, it's like one on ones. It's like you just show up and see who's tops. Like if Dignitas goes out in top 16, it's like, oh, that's a big fucking upset, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So, uh, anybody playing the game on a Guitar Hero controller this time?
Yeah. I didn't see any wacky controllers, but actually, yeah, we should talk about the blind guy. So yeah, speaking of
That is
anybody,
also his name as well too. That is like
yeah,
that
Blind
is
Warrior Sven.
yeah, right?
Blind Warrior Sven. Now, first off, let me tell you, like, again, we're doing an evil watch party. We're just having food. We had the stream on a big TV, and we're just kind of hanging out. But we saw this guy show up on stream with a blindfold, and everyone stopped what they're doing, and they're like, "Hey, we gotta watch this." So talk about attraction, because we were just so curious how this guy could play. And actually, before I go into it, have you seen this in other games? I haven't really seen like other than like blindfolded speed runs.
Not
Like I
to
don't think
this
I've.
level of competitiveness. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
Maybe in
uh,
some like weird off golfing thing, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
um not to this level.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Same. So so yeah, like again, just a testament to the beauty of a open bracket is you obviously wouldn't see this in a real league with only 100 some professionals. So the guy shows up, he's blind, and he has to play a person that can see. And
A regular person.
yeah,
he was a
I'm using
mortal
the
against the god, I tell you. It was flipped.
yeah,
It
oh
was
my
flipped.
god. And he did beat this guy pretty soundly.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the hell? And we tried this ourselves. We fired up the game shortly after. We turned on all the accessibility options, and then we just closed our eyes and see how we could do. All of us failed at it. It was funny as hell though, but it was kind of interesting. So I never really played around with accessibility, and it was giving me echolocation beeps.
Mm.
So I could hear how close they were based on how fast the beeps were,
Mm-hmm.
and also when we jumped over each other, to change the sound. So you could at least at all times tell like what location the player was at.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So it wasn't just like, oh, he said Hadouken. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of have a lot more information.
Well, you see, that's
So
interesting because we'll see now. To me, it's like one of those things where, like, oh, new sense unlocked, right? Like, are people going to now start using that as, hey, like, well, that means that they're, 3.8 units away or something when this sound frequency plays, and they're, I mean, freaks are going to start pulling those things together. I thought the interesting thing was watching the opponent play against him.
yeah,
Played very passive. Like,
yes.
he obviously did not understand any of like the sounds and distancing stuff because they were like almost like trying to play like a ranged game
Yeah.
against this character, and then just got mauled. They were like,
Yes.
oh, I'll just stay on the edges and jump over their head and poke, right? But like that did not happen. They got
Yeah.
absolutely decimated.
Yeah.
I think I guess absolutely decimated. It was 2-1, right?
Yeah, for what it's worth, but yeah, I think he could have done a lot better.
Yeah, but
personally.
but it was funny. The first game was pretty eye opening.
yeah,
Accessibility is something obviously in game design we constantly think about. Supporting absolute blindness is a difficult thing, especially across a load of different genres of games. Right? We always try to have crispy sounds and make sure that we're playing sound cues at the right time. And depending on distance, we might tune up or tune down the volume on some of those things. But you try doing that in a first person shooter. It's like, well, now you got to echolocate to the wall, but also then not give the player wall hacks so that they can see through the wall so they know that there's a player behind them. So we would always play for footsteps, right? A lot of the times back in the day, you would like sit and close your eyes, and you would try and listen for the footsteps, and then you could basically like in your head have the 3D map in your head and hear where that footstep sound was coming from. Not good enough, I guess. You know what I mean? It's not really good enough. So it's kind of difficult to tell exactly, like, there always needs to be more studies into accessibility in games. Microsoft has pushed a huge deal onto this in the controller front, but there will be more, I guess. You know what I mean? It's going to be difficult.
Maybe haptics that tell you how far away they are, like built on the mouse. I don't know.
It's difficult because it's like, how do you do that then not, I think one of the things comes back, it's like, how do you do that but not give them like other people an advantage by just
Absolutely.
enabling those accessibility options at the same time too, but we'll see. It was a cool moment. Do you remember how far the guy went in the tournament?
So he went 2-2.
Okay.
Which honestly is pretty good at Evo. Like most
good,
people
yeah.
would be happy to go 2-2 at Evo.
So they won 2, or like, 1-2 lost 2 obviously, but they won the first one, lost the second one, went into the losers bracket, and then won a second one in the losers bracket, lost again.
In his case, he won 2 and then got sent to losers bracket
and then lost 2.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean,
but yeah,
it's tough in the losers bracket though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Evo especially. Every time you win, I mean, obviously in any tournament, every time you win, it gets harder and harder. But in Evo especially, you are rolling some serious dice there. You're starting to play some world-class players within a few matches.
Yeah. So tell me then. So this was the first time. Obviously, we've talked about this a bunch of times, but like, I think it's still cool. Street Fighter and fighting games is having a humongous resurgence. This
Yes.
is a big game that is honestly is doing a lot better than what the last 2 to 3 previous
Yeah.
releases were doing in that space.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Like, was it? You know what I mean? The prize pool was massive for this. Like, was there any big
Well,
upset coming into the finals?
oh, so yeah. So actually, now the prize pool for Capcom Cup is $1 million, but actually
Oh,
for Evo, and this is worth talking about. Evo was like first place gets 20K.
oh,
If you got, yeah, exactly. It's great. It's great money in the normal gamer context. But of course, if you compare it to real esports, the people are getting like $1 million for winning Dota. So it is a significant difference there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, those are weird though as well too, because again, Dota is like we got prize tickets that's in the game that
Yeah.
people can donate or buy that increases the prize pool. We have, these franchises that are sitting in there with a lot of money on the line, basically. We don't really know what the split is amongst the team because we never know. And I don't, I mean, I think that you're a fool to think that that prize pool money gets split evenly amongst, that team. They get
Mhm.
some percentage of a percentage, right? Like after travel costs, and it's probably a lot like band stuff, where it's like, well, we had to pay for your hotels and we had to pay for your meals and we had to pay for your blah blah blah. So this is what you get in your check at the end of the day. Um,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? But you are kind of getting a salary at the same time too, and there are sponsored individual sponsorship deals for yourself that you are making. So
You might be
obviously,
living in some house with a nice esports facility or whatever.
yeah, I don't know, dude. Don't get me started on gaming houses. I think that's like one of the most toxic slave work environments that you could ever have. Like, I remember when what I mean. They had especially in the Counter Strike stuff, they were like trying to implement a lot of that for some of the bigger teams.
Were they the first to do it?
No, League of
Oh,
Legends was kind of like the first really to do that, in my understanding, anyway, right? Um, but there was a lot of people who like had kids. There was like older people who like I'm like 28 and I got a wife and a child. I'm like I'm not gonna go and live in here. Like this is a job. Like I'm gonna travel to you, and
yeah.
they almost like weren't able to like they almost didn't have their contracts renewed because of some of these things. I think Pashta or Pasha Bicep dude. I think he ran into this as well too on whatever team that was back in the day. But anyway, it's a weird thing. But anyway, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, in terms of like storylines for I will just say the most unfortunate one is that the US, this is a tale as old as time in a lot of games. The US has never won Street Fighter Evo. And they had a chance and it got taken away. So that is an ongoing storyline.
Oh no, who came
Well,
over?
so that's actually interesting. It was down to Jap- the top three was Dominican Republic,
Okay.
Japan, and the UAE, and the
Oh.
UAE won. And I think,
No.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. They've certainly never won before, and they don't exactly have the largest scene. But man, it is such an incredibly international competition. Again, I now I am comparing it to other games, but yeah, I mean like Overwatch is like all Koreans playing, and same with League. So those are a little bit more static, but it's nice to see all the countries go against each other, like the Olympics.
No, I agree. I always love those things. Like even in just like Trackmania and stuff like that. Whenever you could just have your flag beside you and you kind of
Yeah,
see the distribution of all the people around you, it's like,
agreed.
oh, this is awesome. Like it feels way more like an international competition. You kind of
Yeah,
sit behind your flag a little bit more in a
yeah,
weird way. So I totally feel you.
yeah.
I just got Gran Turismo 7 and I hooked it up
Ooh.
to the TV and everything else like that, and for to have my little steering
Yeah,
race wheel
man,
and
the
everything.
movie's out like next week or something,
I
I
won't
think.
watch it. I won't watch it at all. Although I did see some stuff that was like, this is better than it should be type of stuff, you know, like the movie is better
And
than what
then
it should be.
support. You got to support this so that Need for Speed comes out with a
No,
movie next
I
year.
don't need to support more gaming movies like this, more money grab gaming movies. I don't need it. I don't need it. And to be honest, after Barbieheimer, I'm bloody movie done. I hated Oppenheimer. I did not enjoy the movie at all. People really like it. Oh my god.
I haven't seen either one. Is it because it was 3 hours though?
I think I fucked myself, yeah, because the girlfriend obviously was like, oh my god, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. And I was just like, oh lordy, we're in for a big night. And I think we left the theater at maybe like 2 a.m., you know? Like, who's sitting in for a 10:30, 11 p.m. starting of Oppenheimer after sitting down for 90 plus minutes on Barbie? I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm both drunk and not drunk at the same time. I just want to sleep. I gotta drive home.
Were there other people? Like, did you see people in the Barbie movie that were also in the Oppenheimer?
No, not so much. I didn't see that so much. There definitely was, but we were definitely a minority. I think it was maybe one. We were the 1%ers there for sure.
Yeah.
But we had some fun that day. But it was a bit much. I just was like, honestly, whatever. The movie should have ended when the bomb went off. That's all I'm saying. The whole second half of this bullshit movie was like, fucking cut it, dude. Cut it. Move the fucking bomb. Move the whole... I was just like, in my head, just being like, restructure it all. Yeah, that 70 fucking mile IMAX fucking disc you have up there, I'm tearing it to shreds. You give me the entire weekend and I will put this movie back where it should bloody be. And which is, the bomb fucking goes off and everybody goes, holy hell. And then it's two parallel storylines coming in from either side. One is the future, one's the past, and it all leads up to this one moment that is the final fucking crescendo. And that's what should have happened. I don't give a fuck anymore. That's what should have happened. I was weeks ago, and I'm still pissed that I ended up having to see this shit.
That is brilliant editing, yes.
Sorry.
Well, one thing they should have done.
I'm so sorry. I'm just fucking... I haven't been able to get that out in weeks.
Great. Now you got like 50 people that get to hear your rant. But
so bad.
What the new trend nowadays? I don't know if you saw Spider-Man.
No, I didn't.
I don't think this is a spoiler because it was already announced. But a lot of movies are becoming 2 parts. So it should, yeah, you're right. The bomb should have gone off, and it should have said, "See what happens to Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer 2."
No. I don't need a second movie. No, I just wanted the fucking move. Everybody's waiting for the bomb to go off. And then the bomb goes off, and it's like, okay, emotional levels down. I've seen it go off. Now what? You know what I mean? Now I know we go to Okinawa. Now I know where it goes. I know what happens from here. Okay? I know what happens. I've seen it. I've read the history. So just let me, like, play that out in my mind a little bit. Like, fucking hell. Anyway, whatever, dude. Fuck's sake. It's all about the emotional curve, and I'm very emotional, so... anyway, derail everything. Yeah. But in the midst of all of this, though, you were able to go and put out, and unlike myself, who was supposed to make up video while you were away, I'll go into it briefly, right? So, in a weird way, I don't know what's going on, and I was curious about this. Team Fortress 2 has pushed up in the charts. Oh. If you look at the live side of things, for some reason, TF2 is like resurged a little bit. I got shown a video on my YouTube recommendations that was about a specific item that really intrigued me. It was called the Eternal Whisper, or the Eternal Reward. I think it was called the Eternal Whisper, and it was a spy knife that, you know, that this guy was going into the breakdown of how it's the most underutilized item, but the most overpowered item. It's just that nobody uses it for some reason.
It took 10 years to figure it out.
One of those things, kind of, yeah. And it was like actually Valve putting out the statistics saying like this item is just never used, and we don't know why. It was a community-made item, which is also a really cool thing for the monetization side of things. You can just go and kind of like play around with stats and apply models and then put that thing up onto the marketplace, and if it gets approved, then it can go into like the actual live game, and you can make some revenue on the toe off of that, which I think is really cool. If you're a game designer, you're active within a game, you find a role within an item, and you're able to kind of like roll that out in like it's, you know, live service, but it's player, you know, CGD, what is it called again? Consumer
User generated content.
UCG.
UGC.
UGC. Thank you. UGC, right? User generated content, which was supposed to be all the rage with all the NFT side of things. Was supposed to be all the rage. Like the core was big on this. Roblox is big on this, right? Like there is big standards. And then Fortnite puts obviously out then all of this new development toolkit alongside Unreal 5 to, you know, basically keep pushing this side as well too. So I was like, okay, TF2 is moving up. I'm getting recommended videos. Let's go try it out. Let's see what this is like. And I wanted to do it as like a two-pronged attack. What's it like to get back into an FPS game after years away and being a very competitive FPS player?
I'd love to hear this.
I have a serious amount of anxiety of playing serious FPS. Like a very serious, because I can't do it unless I actually sit in and specifically say I'm going to get better at this, because it's not in my nature. I know where I was, and seeing where I'm at, it's like a huge motivational like breaker. So I want to.
And before you get into it, does Team Fortress 2 have a ranked mode, and do you get diamond?
Yeah, there's competitive, but like it's not very well fleshed out. It's not very thought out. The game has definitely been on legs for like a minute. That's why I was curious to be like are we just trying to relive something in the past? Like what's it like to try and go back to that and see where it's at? And I've had so many hours of sitting on 2 Fort just playing snipers and doing dumb stuff and really just wasting time that I wanted to try it out. So I went back in, I recorded a bunch of footage, I wrote a bit of a script for it, but when I got down to the actual editing side, I realized I don't have a lot of time, and two, I just like I wasn't able to like put it together in a way that I really wanted it to go together, you know? It just like when I watched it back, I was like, this is kind of like fucking, like I'm gonna need like 6 or 7 rewrites of this, and it's gonna take me a lot longer than I really wanted to kind of put into it. Not wanted to put into it, but like a lot longer than I thought that I was gonna need to put into it. There's a couple of great, you know, YouTubers that are like, I mean, I don't know, they're, you know, whatever they're doing within their careers or anything like that, but they come at it from a game design perspective. But you know, they may, you know, whatever, elitism. I'll pull the plug on elitism, right? But like they come at it from like a not as detailed approach as I would come at it, in my opinion, right? But they put out 3 to 5 minute videos, and that's rocking, because then they can cut that up, put it into shorts. They can put it out as just its individual content piece, and it's really just detailing one little vertical slice of one little thing. And I think that that's awesome, and it's consumable, and it does great numbers because it's super consumable like that, and it's entertaining at the same time too. So I was trying to go along those lines, make it a 5 minute video, 5 to 8 minutes. It ended up being 20 something minutes with no real tail, and I need to go back to the drawing board with it. It's a new skill for me. Again, I haven't done it since I was editing montage videos, like fucking on Sony Vegas 3, like, you know, so long ago. Like, so it's just it's a process that we're trying to figure out right now. So I don't know. I will get back to it. I do want to get back to it, but the girlfriend also moved in. Yep. So that was a big step, and that's happened in the last 2 weeks as well too. And she just started back at work. School's back in, and right. I've got a deadline for the end of this month as well too, for a big old company playtest. So I think just a bunch of things just backed up. But apologies if anybody actually was. I don't know. I'll get it. I'll get something.
Can I hype you up real quick?
You can.
I will. Yeah. So I've seen your Sony Vegas video.
Oh no.
You have unironically created one of the best Counter-Strike videos I've ever seen. I'll tell you what happens. It's like I don't know, a minute or two of Counter-Strike footage, and then it's 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes of black screen. I'm like, this is genius. I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So kudos to you for that.
Well, I think that was back in the day when like 10-minute long videos was like the max that you could put out, and also it was like important to put out a 10-minute long video.
Yeah.
So you just throw a bunch of black into the background of it all and just like upload it. Nah, like
Yeah.
I don't know. My YouTube is a fucking Dead Sea Scrolls of
It was an art piece.
yeah, of bullshit. So to be frank, was never good at it. Still not good at it at all. But at least like I don't know. At least I can use some of the products, but fuck it out.
Now, the question I have: so is the purpose of these to create like gameplay montages, or for entertainment, or are they like teaching game design stuff?
Teaching game design, but also just kind of like it's something that I'm toying around with in my own life right now, which is I've always wanted more videos, more things around. So I'll go back. When I was younger, I never used to take pictures, right? Never used to take pictures. Had, you know, like, we didn't have camera phones or anything like that, so it was very difficult to anyway, right? But, like, you still kind of found a way to kind of document your life a little bit. We got into this state now where it's like, yeah, we've got iPhones for however many years, and I still have, like, been really bad with it. I used to do a lot of Snapchatting with friends, but purely as a causation to like document the life that I could then go back to, and I'll always have some, you know, some version of what was going on in that time period. And I would try to do like one a day, right? Just one a day. Yeah. Just so that I had something. Give me one good moment within every day that was awesome. A lot of them are just dogs. So in this same case, when I've gotten to where I am now, and also then trying to document things for like the resume and everything else like that, I have really enjoyed having our video catalog, because I honestly just share it with people and just say, here's like a list of like my bad takes, like just you know what I mean. But yeah, there is some solid stuff in there if you actually do want to go back in and kind of dig in and listen to, in my opinion, right? Like in my opinion, I think that there's some good discussion there around a multitude of different topics, that if we didn't document those conversations, like, we wouldn't have that anymore, right? Like, we would have lost that knowledge. We would have explored that topic deeply and with intent, but not had anything to recollect on any of that too. And I don't care that it's not edited. I don't care that there's like bloopers and blunders or whatever. I care more that I have it. So in the same way that I have a notebook that I'll write in, and if I have an idea or some topic or some thought, that I'll just jot down and just move it in. Same thing when I read books. When I read books, I take a pen. I always have a pen with me when I'm reading a book, and I'll read, and I'll highlight and underline and drop some notes into the paragraphs, because that's what I want to do. I want to have that discussion on the paper, and I want to keep that so that when I go back, I'm not going to try to remember like what's going on there. I think part of that comes in, I have short-term memory loss. I was diagnosed with it when I was a kid, and it's weird when you're fucking smoking weed, dude. You start smoking weed and you forget where you put down things, but no, stop. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, I want to be inspired, and I want to have a catalog of the things that I did outside of the margins, and I just think that those things are a great way. Secondarily, it's a little bit of like monetize your life. I'm not trying to build up some sort of portfolio or thing about it, but like, I love working on my car. I did a big job this weekend. I worked on the valve cover gasket. I needed documentation anyway to have just for like, you know, if somebody's going to buy the car off of me, like, hey, like, this is when I did it. This is how good the job was. Here's everything underneath, blah, blah, blah. So you have something you can show somebody. But if you could do that, record it as a video and kind of set it off as like, hey, this is my level 1 vlog. Like, this is my level 1 journey. Like, I'm a big proponent of the art of the slow roll. I'm a huge proponent of this.
Me too.
I see this in writing, like when people are writing books, they write like 50 words a night. They write, you know, like a couple of paragraphs every day. It's, you know, and then in the end, in a 2-year span, they have a book. You know, you write a blog post, but then you write one blog post a week, and then all of a sudden, cover to cover, in 200 days, you have a 200-page book that has content throughout that you can go back and edit, revise. But if you didn't do it, you don't have it. And if you don't store it somewhere in an interesting way, then it's great. And then I think of all of the people that I'm watching on YouTube doing the same thing that I'm doing, or, you know, like replacing the valve cover gasket. They're just in their garages. They're just, you know, at home, like out in the street. And they're just like, this is how I did it. Well, why don't I do the same so I can add to that content pool so that when somebody comes back around and needs to do this in the future as well, like, hey, here's another reference video, and I'm going to go into the details that that person missed, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, like, I didn't actually record it. I'm disappointed that I didn't record it, because I ended up, it was a 6-hour period. It was 10:30 at night, and I had a headlamp on, and I'm out here, like, trying to fucking wrench on bolts and shit on the car. And, you know, it's one of those things that you can use as, like, a little bit more of, like, ah, cool, like, I remember when I did that. Like, I did do that, and this is how I did it, and then somebody else can kind of, like, give you information about, well, how are you going to do it better or worse or whatever. And there's a motivational side to it as well, too, that kicks in, but that's the roundabout way of saying I just, you know, I mean, I want to do it so that I have those thoughts somewhere, and then I can kind of produce that skill at some point and kind of just say, here's a breadth of content. Like, oh, what do you know about game design? Well, fucking here, you know, I guess here it is, right? Like, here's my random thoughts, and not worry about necessarily what the ultimate end goal is. Just kind of say, cool, like, here's a 5-minute video on, hey, TF2 feels like it's having a resurgence right now, some sort of renaissance period. Let's go in and find out why.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and
Yeah.
just kind of take it from there and see, does something cool happen from that? I don't know. Maybe that's content brain. Maybe that's just, like, the way I feel like a bit of the world is right now. But,
yeah,
you know, that's how I want to share. I don't know.
I think that is a fantastic approach, and it really aligns with, honestly, some of the things that I've changed within the last week. Before I give my side of that, I want to first ask, how did TF2 go? Did you get your ass kicked, or were you about the same?
Dude, I got my ass fucking whooped. Oh and my
what do you think
god.
What do you think you were losing to?
I forgot all of the mechanics.
Okay.
I forgot all of the mechanics. Lost the first 5 games, won 1 game at the very end, and then kind of, like, slowly started to piece it back together. Simple things like, you know, and again, I wanted to test trial some other stuff in there, like, hey, we have all of these items, but I'm coming in with almost nothing because I was there from like the beginning of the item economy, but really was not there throughout the whole life cycle of the thing. I was there from, like, when they started putting them in, and then there was, like, scrapping and picking up items off the ground, scrapping those metals, building. You had blueprints for different items. People could make them and then put them onto the marketplace. It was fucking weird. So I don't have anything. So I want to see how quickly I could actually then get some of these items as a free-to-play user. And also then how, you know, so how could this resurgence kind of, like, be building back into that monetization pool? And I really didn't get a whole lot of items. I don't think I really got. I got a couple. There's a whole, like, level progression curve and everything else like that. But the biggest things going into the spy and going into the individual stuff, I forgot a lot of the mechanics. So you can't backstab out of cloak as quickly as you think that you can. So I always thought that you could walk over to somebody as you're cloaked, and you would get the animation, and you could just backstab straight away, and then that would cancel the cloak, but it's not. You have this, like, 2-second period where when you uncloak, you have to uncloak, and then you have the ability to do it. So it's very dangerous when you're in a group of people, and then all of a sudden you uncloak, everybody hears it, everybody sees it in the VFX, and then you have this moment. So you really have to pick and choose, like, what the right play is at different times. And that strategy was lost on me at the start, right? Like a lot of those things. I forgot as a scout, I forgot to jump. I was so speedy. I was just running around the place, but I forgot to jump. It's like
Yeah.
you have a double jump. You're the only character with a double jump. You're Quake, dude. Just play Quake. And I never play. I forgot. So it took me ages to kind of get back into this. Interestingly enough, I ended up the moment that I launched the game, an old friend of mine messaged me and was also playing TF2 and was also having the same moment as me where they were like,
because of the knife, or
no, not because of the knife, but they basically said the same thing. It's just like, yeah, just was seeing the numbers kind of go up, and honestly I just kept thinking TF2 was really fun, and why don't I give it another little go? Like, why not? So we just played together, and
nice.
I got to play games with a person I haven't played games with in maybe like 4 years or something. You know what I mean? And sit on Discord and kind of like not relive that life a little bit, but we had fun for like the
Yeah.
2 hours that we were doing it. It was enjoyable.
Yeah. Absolutely get that. And it is funny. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole just yet. But Overwatch 2 did get released on Steam as a TF2 competitor. And, anybody that's been following that now, it has reached the record amount of negative reviews.
I saw
What?
so funny that they released them the same week as like Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh yeah.
Like to add to the fucking misery of how fucking ridiculous these people are. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And now
look,
you have this apparent TF2 resurgence that's like also like, hey, you guys are not hitting your mark.
well, you know what I mean? It's funny because I guess I didn't think about it, but maybe that's a crossover as well too. Like if
Mhm.
somebody was actually going and putting out into the zeitgeist that like TF2 is still here and like Overwatch is over here and Overwatch 2 is shit, but people
Yeah.
still want that team experience and they're like, well, you know what I mean, whatever. Like they could go back to Overwatch 1, but they've completely been boiled off of the group and they might not go to the free to play. I don't know. I keep wanting to say Summoner's War, but it's not Summoner's War because that's a mobile game. But
Yeah.
the one that's it's like God related,
Oh, Smite.
Smite and stuff. But it's not Smite though. There's another one.
Game of Gods.
There's another one. I can't remember what the fuck it was called. Anyway, they have a $20 bundle where you can literally just pay $20 and you basically unlock all of the content in the game, which I think is pretty sweet. As a monetization point for a free to play game. But long and short, yeah. So like maybe that was a big pumper as well too. I mean, so I don't know. Market trends are definitely doing some weird stuff. So we'll see how those go. I don't know.
Okay. But yeah, in general, I really liked the idea of what you wanted to do, and I resonated with it because I kind of came to a similar thing recently myself, but from a different angle. So this starts with have you seen or heard of the show The Bear?
Yeah,
On
of
Hulu?
course. Yeah.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched all of it.
Oh, you have. Okay.
I'm a stupid home chef. Like I run my own
Yeah.
little butchery program at home. Like I buy like half a cow and then
Yeah.
chop it all up here and freeze a bunch of it. So it's like one of my favorite things to do to try and save money. Just get way too much meat and then just have it for 4 months.
Yeah. So
Live
you
out of
can
your
certainly
freezer.
relate. Yeah. Minus the crazy hectic kitchen where everything's on fire.
You haven't tried to make dinner in my home.
Fair enough.
No, but I feel you.
So-
Absolutely.
So to explain this to the viewers that haven't seen it, The Bear is a show about a world-class chef who decides to kind of go to a rundown restaurant and run it and just kind of revitalize it. And the thing that interested me the most was one of the later episodes that reminded me. So again, this is like supposedly the best chef in the world, but what he does is he's still constantly experimenting with dishes and flavors and ingredients, and he's failing like almost nonstop. And I think that's so cool to see. That reminds me of other fictional characters like Sherlock. Sherlock in movies is also often shown doing wild experiments and failing at them. And lastly, you take an athlete like Michael Jordan or Kobe, and frankly, they always say they have failed more than anybody else. And that really inspired me to kind of get back to experimenting. I used to do a ton of game jams and just little experiments. And I know that that is why I've become strong at game design, because I have all these moments, like much like you said with your photos. I have all these moments. I literally look back at my games like, oh yeah, I remember that this weird ass mechanic worked, because me and my friends often challenge each other and said that mechanic's too mainstream. Let's do something more wild. So all these wild experiments that were especially crazy at first really gave me a lot of insight into game design. So I really resonated.
Absolutely. I also never trust. I mean, you got to trust your gut sometimes, but I rarely do. We've talked about it multiple times of like the market is the judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you got to do a bunch of shit to like know what the market's going to want for your thing. And the only way to like build up that lexicon knowledge is reading from other people's experiments, doing your own experiments, whether that be market tests in any sort of way, shape, or form, UX, UI, art, or just game design mechanics in general. Like you gotta do it. In our lifestyle, it's you gotta play it. I gotta play it, right? Like get that thing into the fucking game and let's play it. I mean, I can try to judge if something sounds fun on paper, and that's usually like my first port of call to go and say, is this worthwhile even putting into the game? Does it sound fun on paper? And if it sounds fun on paper, let's get it in, because it may not be fucking fun. A lot of the times it ain't fun at all, and then you're like, oh shit, how do I fucking scramble from here to like
Yeah.
try to turn this into something? And that's when when we talk about that last 10%, but it's not even the last 10%, that's like 50% of the whole fucking thing. But you were doing this interesting experiment on reactions, right?
Yeah. So one of my first experiments, and again, I encourage people to just, if you're curious about even a small thing, and if you have a small amount of time, because this took me like a couple hours to whip up, like just do it.
If
And I
you
think,
if you have a hypothesis,
yeah, exactly. You must
put
start
it,
with one.
put a test, put something out into the market to test it. Try it. You
Yeah,
need to have something to test that hypothesis.
absolutely. So Street Fighter has been on my mind a lot lately, and the interesting thing about Street Fighter is that in Street Fighter 5, you can't really jump at your opponent very easily. Any pro will knock you out of the sky immediately.
Mm.
But in Street Fighter 6, even though the game is almost the same speed and the same engine, uh, you can jump in on people, even pros. And I was like, that is really interesting, because it's more interesting to watch when the game is more dynamic rather than a bunch of people
Sure.
just on the
Yeah.
ground. So I ran an experiment, because basically Street Fighter 6 added a few more really dangerous options to pay attention to. So what my experiment was a very basic reaction tester, and at first you only have to react to one button. So the letter U pops up and you hit U, but then after a while, I keep adding more and more letters until eventually there are 6 letters, and now you have to guess between one and 6 letters.
Do you have it up on your in your thing there? Or you want to just like
It's a secret link. It's like really janky. And again, this does go back to what I said about small experiments. Just do it as fast as you can for what you need. So it's not terribly exciting, but yeah,
is it
basic.
up on the Peachtree Oath itch
No, it's
channel?
a secret. It's a secret link.
Oh, it's actually just appeared another
Yeah,
secret
it's a
link.
secret link because I didn't want people stumbling upon it and then bitching about it. So.
All right, well there goes the whole thing of share everything.
Yeah. I shared it with people I knew.
Okay,
Um,
cool. All right, go on then.
But
So
yeah. So the results aren't super interesting, though. I'll talk very briefly about it. If you're only reacting to one single option, like you're like, this guy is definitely gonna jump at me and shoot at me in TF2, like, and in this position, then you'll react in about a quarter of a second. But if if you're thinking about like 4 options, it's gonna take you like half a second to react to something. And there's various consequences to it that aren't super important to detail here. But there is one other interesting conclusion. I wasn't actually looking for this data, and I kind of stumbled upon it, and it's related to you and TF2. I was wondering if you were going to say that you felt like your reactions were slow.
oh yeah, slow as shit.
Oh, you felt like that. Okay.
Yeah.
That is interesting. And one thing I saw was that and I know this anecdotally, so for what it's worth, is that age doesn't really matter much for reactions. I've never seen a older gamer who actively plays games really be slow on reactions. They might joke about it, but I've never seen it. And actually, my in my data, again, there's only 80 entries. This isn't scientifically sound. Um, that's why I'm not pushing it very hard. Is that older gamers were some of the fastest, but
Hmm.
almost easily, and kids under 18, they were often the slowest. I will give my my hypothesis for that. From my understanding, because I've played reaction testers in the past, is that it's all about focus and concentration. Literally, when I'm playing Samurai Kirby, which is actually a 1v1 reaction game, I breathe in, and then when the icon might appear, I slowly breathe out. It's like a meditation focus thing, and that's absolutely how I get my fastest reaction times.
Hmm.
I believe that kids really have trouble focusing, especially if they're like around 10 years old. But if you're talking about an older gamer that really is focused on what he's like, I'm gonna beat Calvin's score. They will zone in because they're trained and well versed in zoning in,
Yep.
and they'll get really good scores.
Yep. You mean
And
I also
oh,
put it down to no, no, no. Please go on. I don't want to
oh,
talk.
I
It's
was just gonna say, and
your results.
perhaps for TF2, the thing is, like, if you are thinking about a lot of stuff, including like, man, how the hell does spy work again, or what the hell are these maps, and because you don't really know when people are going to pop out, your reaction times are going to slow down because you're not really predicting your opponent very well.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, if somebody is used to the maps and they've recently played and they know that around the when they turn around their corner, there's like a 70% chance of a person being there. Then their reaction times speed up. So
Definitely.
I don't think it's age. I think it's just prediction and focus.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely there's a part and parcel of it. I want you to talk to though what keys these people were hitting
Yeah,
though, right?
yeah,
So it did onboard as right hand side of the keyboard, and it was all letters, correct?
yes, that's correct.
So, but what was the bias though? Was it IUYOP
Yeah,
as well too, or was it two rows?
yeah. So the letters I use was U through L, and the reason I chose this is because this is not my final experiment. This is just a prototype for fighting game stuff.
Okay.
Fighting games use two rows of three buttons, so it is awkward, and I know people were slowed down by the keys. So
Yeah.
it's not a perfect reaction experiment. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. There's weird right hand biases there. Like I use a split keyboard, so it's like that ended up having to have some weird stuff. These are
Mhm.
also off keys, things that you wouldn't necessarily use all that often I mean as much as
Yeah,
you can, but I also then uh, was instantly like, okay, this should have been numbers 1 to 6,
yeah,
because
yeah.
numbers 1 to 6 would have allowed me to at least know by the line, like I know where all of those values are because I
That's
don't need to process where that is. But I'm like, oh well, where is Y in comparison to K? Like I'm like, oh, I don't actually know. I have to look at my keyboard to go and deal with that. I've just, you know what I mean? I've just sat typing for so long that I don't really know where the keys are. I couldn't tell
yeah.
you where, you know, every letter in a QWERTY keyboard is, minus like WASD, QR, and maybe a few others. But like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I definitely ran into some biases there, and I don't think I really submitted any results because of that.
Sure,
I got a
sure you
little
did. No, no,
salty.
no, no,
I got
no.
a little salty.
But yeah, no, you're right. I did think about the numpad at first, and I
But for what you're trying to
what
do, I think it does have some interesting things because everybody's going to end up having some like lower level, I think, of atonement towards those things.
yeah, it is a little closer to fighting games, and but yeah, first off with numpad, a lot of people are on laptop and they don't have a numpad. But
Yep.
yeah, so a fighting game controlling a key. Wait, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, so it maps very closely to
Ooh,
U
clicky
through L.
keys. Ooh, clicky
Yeah,
keys.
if I were to do a version 2, I wanted to show an image of a character doing a move, and then you have to hit the corresponding button. And unfortunately, one of the most key buttons is your pinky right here.
This is your cheater pad.
It is. Yeah, people often call it a cheat box. So yeah, that's kind of why it was set up like this. It was to mimic a little bit of processing, because you have to think, oh, he did a jump. I need to do a anti-air or something. So
Sure.
that's why the experiment was set up like that. It's not a perfect reaction test.
Yeah. Look, my whole thing is it's all about mental models, right? It's
Agreed.
always been about mental models. I think that experience is what drives layers within our mental models, and what we have is on our. I've written this out like a million times, but it's like on our left hand side we have our inputs, right? Like all our sensory inputs, and then on the top side we have like kind of like the output of what we would actually do in that certain scenario or situation. The model is only as big as we have experience to fill that thing out. So a lot of
And,
these things,
and
yeah, go
and
on.
one part experience, and then also reflection
Yes,
to
absolutely.
mold it.
That's how we get into like the heuristical layers of models and submodels and trees within those things, because sometimes these things they will always start out with like hard coded values. Whenever I do this, I have to do that. And we build in, or a lot of, basically starting out, we'll see a big grid, but we have to fill it out first. There are a lot of blank points. So we'll make a lot of mistakes. But the refinement of those is what we start then putting into values. So then we start, okay, going from question marks to ones and zeros to fives to sixes. What are we going to do in those scenarios? Then all of a sudden, once we actually get into more of those situations and scenarios, we end up doing math on those interpretations. So it's like, okay, it's CTF. It's not domination. Therefore, the team is going to be spawning from that side of the map to this side of the map. We're on this map specifically. That map has these different loadout points. Whenever that bomb or whatever it is like gets up to this position, those players will be able to respawn from this point. So they're going to have a hotspot bias towards like that side of the map. Well, they have this many different characters. They have this distribution of different characters. Therefore, this individual character is going to be the best one for this scenario. But we only get into that once we actually start trying to really push down the lanes of exploring the possibility space in the game and building optimization off of our mental models. Same thing in like League of Legends. After a while, like what's the what's the big fucking thing, right? Sid Meier, right? Like a game's is
Series
a
of
list of
choices.
series of meaningful choices, right? Like
Yeah.
and in a lot of ways, when we're playing these MOBA styles or these like competitive, these competitive games that are always live, ever changing, there's a lot of different scenarios that you get into, but there's a lot of similar scenarios that you get into. So you end up building these abilities to go and say, I know how to play around this. I know how to play around that. I know how to do a top lane Darius into something else, into a Cho'Gath. I know what that matchup's going to be. I know how that's going to go. I know where I need to then like change to apply my pressure to do different things and blah blah blah. But you only get that off of reflection, learning, skill, and continuous play. Now, I do think that there is some level of reactivity, like
Mhm.
my ability to actually just move the mouse and to also think down that way. And if you look at a comparison against AI models right now, there's a theory of freshness to a product that actually allows you to change how reactive your mental model is. I think if your models are also like too big, and you don't throw away a lot of older data and say like,
Oh yeah.
hey, like how do we go from where we are right now, and kind of like need to forget a few things, because yeah, sure, there's some old school tactics that you can bring in, but that might also be something that hinders you in a lot of ways, because you might be thinking about an old patch, you might be thinking about a different version of the game, or a different version of the map that's already been updated and changed, and timings are all now different, or strategy is completely different, and you might be fucking yourself by then thinking too many ways down the line, almost like a chess player, right? Going way too far down the box, to the point where then you actually kind of end up in decision paralysis yourself, and
Yeah.
don't have the right answer to the right thing. So
Agreed.
there's some weirdness and some causality here that needs to be like manifested and molded. But I mean, I definitely want to be the grandpa inside of the fucking home, you know, playing Quake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Playing whatever version of Counter Strike is alive, and beating on people. Like I want to go and regress. I want to be a 16-year-old kid playing video games every single day when I'm older. You know, so um,
Yeah.
I but that's just how I think of it anyway as well too. So I applaud you for pushing on that and trying to see kind of like what results kind of came from it. You know?
Yeah. And you can like some people might be, why didn't you just look up a paper? And there are papers, but like usually the experiment is not set up to be exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
But it's
yeah,
also
just
here's the thing. It's like I I have this a lot. I deal with this a lot with the girlfriend and everything as well too, right? Like a lot of people let perfect be the enemy of good enough,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
All I'm trying to do is get to an answer.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to poke at something.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to write a scientific paper. I don't
Exactly.
need to think about what my fucking deltas are and what my
I don't need
distribution of things.
2,000 participants in my
No,
study
I
to get a
just want
nice note.
something. I want
Yeah.
something that like I have a question, I have a process that I think is okay, gets
Yeah.
me somewhere, and I'm going to implement that, and then I'm going to see what those results are, and then I'm going to make
Exactly.
a decision of whether or not those results are indicative of the actual problem or of the process. And if I can get to that point, well, then maybe I can refine the process to get a better result or to find a better result. But I'm only going to be able to push on that if I allow myself and have the ability to go and actually do the action.
Agreed.
And the defeatist attitude that comes in that in between of like, oh shit, like you can't do that, but that's gonna be like this, and then if I'm gonna do it, whoa, like that's gonna be like a whole lot of fucking shit, and this doesn't look great, and the onboarding is not awesome. It's just like,
Yeah.
where'd you get to? You know, where'd you get to?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's unfortunate because the people that do like say this stuff to you often, they do. I mean, they frankly they do tend to not, be as far, because you're right. Like so, like I said, I learned all these lessons from small game jams. Game jams had like 50 players with feedback, but you know what? I learned so much about it. Even though maybe not all my conclusions are 100% correct, it doesn't matter. I have so many experiences to draw upon that have helped me.
And the thing is that you can admit that too.
Mm,
You know, it's just like, hey, like I can admit that this isn't great. This is not perfect. But I have something now that I'm gonna then also turn that into something else. And I've kind of not answered. I haven't answered my own. I necessarily like answered my own question, but I have something,
exactly.
and that's better than anything. Like
Yes.
that's like the biggest thing in science as well too. It's just like we have these, you know, like oh Jesus Christ, all these, you know, oh just look at big, you know, big petroleum. You know, we're gonna go into it, but big petroleum, big pharma, all this other shit. Like oh let's pay for a shit ton of studies, but we're gonna tailor those things to get the results that we want to get.
Right.
That's not what
Exactly.
we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to an answer. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get to something. And then I'll interpret where those things go, and then I'll see if that fits my conclusion or not fits my conclusion, but I don't care. That's what real science is. We do the experiment to see what happens. And then we look at the data objectively and say what was good, what was bad, where did we go wrong, and where could we optimize. But like, hey, like we have something. And then we're
Yeah.
gonna read and interpret that. Um so yeah, I mean, it's great. You have a video up as well too that you
Yeah,
have
it's
as
it's yeah, it's more nitty-gritty stuff. It's just a little private video I shared. I think if I were to repackage it, I'd probably make a more official video. So yeah, it's a really unofficial video. So
I mean, look,
um,
I just believe in this. You know, I mean, same thing in you for same thing for me is like, you mean, hey, if we can build that into a 5 minute video, that's just like, what's the exploration here?
mhm,
I think that those things add a lot to the culture of games development
yeah,
and to the side of ourselves of just game design, but also just kind of like relaying knowledge as well too, and just also then getting the feedback of, all right, well, like, where would anybody else interpret this? Do they see this in other things? Where's the crossover in any of this stuff as well too? I always believe in the discussion,
yeah.
but you know, I haven't been beaten down by the fucking internet trolls, so you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. And so honestly, that's totally fair. And I got a lot of positive feedback that said, "Man, you should turn this into a series or something because they enjoy my talks. But I will say, I 1,000,000% agree. The discussion is important. I just choose to discuss it with people in my inner circle because I can be super informal,
Sure.
and that allows me to have a more truthful conversation. Because you know how it is with the internet. You gotta pull some punches.
Well,
And you can't.
that, but a lot of people can't interpret,
Yeah.
right? Like, I see that all the fucking time in playtests where it's like you hand somebody something and then all of a sudden they're like, I don't know what's going on here. Nothing makes sense. And it's just like, have you ever played a video game before? Like, dude, we're developing this game. Like,
Exactly.
you know it's not going to be polished and perfect right now, but you literally can't read between the lines. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
You've been making games for how many years, and you're looking at this and you can't read between the lines?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I remember,
So,
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
I'll tell you the story. We're in a
Huh?
fucking company playtest, right? We're in a company playtest. This was awful. This person got fucking sacked, right? I mean, like a couple of weeks afterwards. We're in a company playtest. We've been working on this game for a solid year and maybe like 6 months, right? Maybe a year and 4 months. And instantly this person was like, what do I do? How do any of these characters work? What? I don't know what's going on at all. It's just like, you designed the characters! You did the art for them! And you don't know what they do? Where the fuck were you? This whole time? You didn't play it one time? You never pressed play? You just sat there with a fucking iPad and just drew? And never asked, what's this fucking character supposed to do?
Oh,
What are their
I've seen
abilities?
that, yeah.
You never asked, what is the world? What are we fucking doing here?
I've seen this.
You don't even know the basic fucking mechanic for our fucking video game we've been working on for a year and however amount of time? Jesus! How engaged were you, you fucking idiot? God damn, dude. Yeah, anyway, not harsh, but a little harsh, but oh my fucking god. I remember
we'll see
just...
if we need to put a compressor on this
Nah,
video.
fuck that, dude. I was so pissed. I was pissed. I was so angry.
Yeah.
So angry. I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, so you do nothing. Cool. And then you don't do anything at all.
Yeah.
It'll happen. I don't know. Fucking hell,
Yeah.
man. But yeah. Mental.
So yeah, honestly, I of course would love to talk to a wider audience, but if it creates too much friction, again, this is going back to our original point, which was like, do this with as low friction as you can, you can reasonably take. And I just want to talk to the people I know about some of these results. It's just low friction for me.
Yeah, I totally get it. And you have a deep pool as well too. You got a deep pool, so it's nice to have all of those stuff. All right. Well, look. What do we think we're gonna try to accomplish here in the near future? Like, I would like to keep pursuing this idea of literally 3 to 5 8-minute videos, like really quick ones that can also fill in for times like this. Little impending things, just very informal, not well really cut together. I don't really care for, like, I'm not trying to make anything that's like technically brilliant. I just want to have voiceover, quick gameplay shots, something that conveys a message and a goal for that thing, does it quickly and tries to get it across, and just have it be, you know, I mean, almost like, I mean, it's interesting, you know, some of the bigger names like Charlie, right? Like, I don't remember his second name, right? Moist Critical, right? But like,
Yeah.
Charlie's putting out maybe a couple of videos a day, but it's just him talking into a webcam and then maybe sharing a screen or just like having his editor like edit a couple of things in. And there's some power to that, of just like honestly just kind of having a take, putting it out there and seeing where the direction and discussion goes, that I want to implicitly kind of like aim for a little bit more in my own videography work or whatever you want to call this, you know what I mean? But
Understood. I've always been so not Twitter mindset, because that's kind of it. I don't mean that necessarily in a bad way, because a lot of people do it. But
no, same. I don't use Twitter. I'm on Reddit too much, but like I don't. But you know what I mean.
Have a
I don't
thought
do it
and then quickly put it out. Yeah, no, it can definitely be a good thing, especially if you have valuable things to say. Then it is a good thing.
I don't even think value even has
Okay.
anything. It's so like a weird thing. It's like I don't know. Like what is value these days is like I don't know. Like I don't even want to put that kind of like unnecessary thing on myself. I
That's
just want to
fair.
say like
Less friction. Hey, you're right.
I'm exploring this thing
Yeah.
and I'm exploring it because of XYZ and I just feel like there's and even if you came to the conclusion of like I feel like there's something here but I haven't dug deep enough or like I haven't come to like a big enough conclusion of it. What do you think? And just kind of like drop it,
You're right.
and again drop it and not push it, if I don't it's not it's just about to me it's like literally almost like about clearing the plate. Like I feel bunged up when I don't have the ability to like explore or get those things out, and I kind of need a reason these days to try and like push myself to get those things out. um and I want to explore these topics. I want to explore them with more people. I don't have that many people to dig deep into to kind of like chat to and talk to about this. So I've you, Neil, I've got a couple of other people. So a lot of it is like I just need a space, I think, to kind of like try to push a little bit harder on something that is itching at me that I don't really know about yet. I don't really
Totally
understand.
fair. Whatever we're interested and curious about. That's how I started as well
Yeah.
with the experiment. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll
Okay.
see. But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna try to get it out this week or this weekend.
Cool, man. Let's chase failure. Got to be like Michael Jordan.
Oh Jesus Christ! Done a lot of that. Done a lot of that. Done a decent amount of that. We're gonna do a lot more. Jesus, we'll see.
All right.
But yeah. Look, I appreciate you jumping back on.
Oh,
I mean, we'll see what happens, but see you next week.
absolutely.
All right, dude. Good luck. Okay. Chat to you.
Later.